do
Okay, so
online.
thank you for not giving
It's
us
a
all
shame. I was there
COVID.
yesterday. Okay, let me.
I'll go to do it.
Just
Okay,
tell
yeah.
me what you can
Yeah,
see now.
we can see that, yes.
Okay. That, can you see a building?
Yeah, we can see a bit.
And then now it's changed.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Anne, for that presentation. It was very relevant in terms of what I'm going to be speaking about. So I'm currently in my second year of a PhD, looking at enhancing competitive advantage through horizontal collaboration in urban last mile logistics. And there's been quite a few discussions over the last 2 days, especially about collaboration. And sometimes within those discussions, I felt like what I'm doing is really irrelevant because a lot of things has been done before. And sometimes I feel like actually there's a great need for this. And I think that describes this topic of collaboration really well. I also want to note as a side point that this presentation is also and this trip here is supported by Greenlog. So Greenlog is it's a European project and it stands for Cooperative Interconnected Green Delivery Solutions towards an era of optimized zero emission last mile logistics. And I'm also working on this project and I'm trying to combine this with my research under the University of Wolverhampton, where we are technical partners and we're currently working on innovative demand prediction models, looking at things such as like live demand, being able to use live data to create demand prediction models for a city logistic provider that runs on cargo bikes. So it's very relevant to the presentation that was just done. So these are a company based in Oxford, actually. They are currently they're called Pedal and Post. Okay. They deliver all the deliveries within the Oxford region for Evri. And they do a lot of deliveries for DPD. They and yeah, I can answer more questions about them, more specific questions about them later if anyone's interested in what they do. So in terms of myself, I mean, I'm not going to go into it too much, but I somehow ended up in transportation engineering, starting with mathematics and then education. And then the Department for Civil Engineering needed a maths teacher, so I agreed to teach maths for a year. And then eventually I ended up doing a PhD in transportation engineering. So I can't say I'm an expert in logistics, but I do my best. So in terms of the background and to this particular research, we know that there's a lot of pressure on last mile logistics, and as you all know, the last mile is the last leg, is the last portion of the journey, and it can be and the last mile can be categorized into three categories. It could be where it comes straight to your house. So the delivery point is at the point of use. It could be where the customer goes out to collect it from a particular hub, such as you going out to Argos, or it could be somewhere in the middle, let's say where Argos delivers it to a parcel locker, and then you go to that parcel locker and collect it. So yeah, when I'm talking about last mile, it involves these three different portions. In terms of horizontal collaboration, now some people call horizontal vertical and vertical horizontal, so I guess I have to just explain what I mean. In terms of horizontal, I'm talking about either the logistics platforms or delivery companies that can potentially come together and collaborate, or it could be the e-commerce platforms as well. So since I've done this presentation, subject has matured as it does with any PhD. And so now the horizontal collaboration also involves horizontal collaboration between e-commerce platforms, and there are many benefits to horizontal collaboration, and it's not always used. And kind of this is what this research is about. It's about trying to develop incentives or trying to develop something that would make the transition towards collaboration in this field easier. Yeah, so it's about competitors trying to work together, and sharing things such as resources, knowledge, processes, and so on. So that's the essence of it. In the context, sorry, of last mile logistics, horizontal collaboration is the cooperation between these different providers in the delivery and distribution of goods in that final stage. And this stage is usually the most critical, the most expensive. And by collaborating, they can use their resources together, create their own networks, share different assets, such as delivery vehicles and so on, or share knowledge as well. So knowledge sharing is an important part of it. And so initially, the research questions, I just wanted to understand kind of the current outlook of horizontal collaboration from the literature. What are the main drivers? What are the strategies, and what are the challenges? So they're the three main things that I'm looking at. The main drivers within the literature. Why would people do this? What are the strategies that are suggested, and what are the challenges? And then from that, looking for gaps and potentially building some kind of framework to enable this to become easier. So I followed the PRISMA methodology. I looked at this was kind of the search term that I used, collaborative or multi. The reason I used multi is because multimodal was big on collaboration, or was a big kind of factor seen in collaboration. And then last mile urban city logistics. And again, I ended up just using these 5 databases, strictly because there was a lot of repetition in other ones. So I did use more, but there was a lot of repetition. So I tried to keep it as recent as possible. So between 2018 until 2022. So yeah, initially there was 662 searches in total, and there was 198 previous to 2018. There were some papers eventually that through some minor snowballing, there were some papers that ended up in the final search term. But I'm just going to skip through this because otherwise I'm going to take too long in this presentation. In the end, there were 72 papers in total that were completely relevant to the context. So I did initially I did I extracted the information and created my own database from all this information and separated it into these different categories, the main themes, a summary of each paper, how they see collaboration, the outlook, what do they think collaboration is, are they focusing on horizontal, vertical, or both, how deep the discussion is. So I separate this kind of based on because what I noticed, let me just stick to this for now. So I separated it based on how deep the discussion was, whether it was just very shallow, a passive kind of opinion, or whether it was very deep and tried to get into it. And then the different strategies, drivers, and challenges that were mentioned. And then finally, there was a thematic analysis. So in terms of the just purely quantitative results, we have the majority of these papers focused on horizontal collaboration, and very few talked about vertical. Again, here vertical means across the supply chain, and then a lot of papers talked about both. In terms of the strategies, drivers, and challenges, so as you can see, a lot of papers talked about the drivers, i.e. why would people want to do this, but the least amount of papers talked about the actual challenges. And then in terms of the depth of discussion, most papers had a very shallow discussion, but there was a few that had kind of a more deeper discussion on this. So in terms of the overall outlook, yeah, so there's kind of a development over time. So there was some initially papers are kind of talking about the challenges and how we can meet kind of the sustainability goals. Now, yeah, as you can see, there are a few papers here outside the initial range that was mentioned, but towards getting more recent papers, we talk about kind of new methods and the more deeper challenges, such as data privacy and talking about how we can collaborate in different ways, such as vehicle routing and stakeholders trying to collaborate together. In terms of the drivers then, the drivers were categorized. So the drivers were categorized. So you had some drivers that talked about the, again, as you can see, there were about 227 drivers mentioned. So I tried to kind of categorize them into these categories here. So we had like local regional development, i.e., if we work together, that it's better for the local economy. Customer satisfaction, if we work together, we can get our deliveries out faster, and the customers would be happier. Vehicle utilization, again, talking about maybe empty space within vehicles or how we operate those vehicles in terms of the routing, optimal routing. Reducing environmental impacts. So yeah, so talking about sustainability goals, operational efficiency, the fact that if we work together, if we put operations together on the same line, they can be our process can be more efficient. Yeah, and I think those were the main ones. Those were the main ones. In terms of the challenges, then the reasons that I found in the literature as to why people were not doing this, you had the bureaucracy. So because this really needs to happen most of the time at the operational level. So every company will have its own processes, and so then to come together and to try and align yourself both at the operational level and then the tactical and strategic levels, then it becomes more difficult because who's going to be the one that makes the final decisions. The lack of data, so not enough information as to why people should, or not enough information for people to make the right decisions. The regulation, again, whether it's internal policies or whether it's more wider policies that don't enable partners to come together. Trust was a big one. I think trust appeared the most. People don't want to share information or private information with competitors. Compatibility of technology. So a lot of different systems are used within the supply chain processes. So, trying to make sure that my technology and your technology can work together is going to take a lot of work. So that might just be a reason as to not work together in the first place. Again, mistrust, who takes the responsibility of what's happened. Value sharing, this is another big one. So how do we know who gets the right, how do we know who gets what as a result of this? How do we know who as in terms of financial sharing, how do we know how much you should take and how much I should take in terms of the work that we do together? And also loss of brand identity. Again, brand, because logistics is very visible to a large mass of people. People can see cargo bikes on the road. People can see vans on the road. People, and so on. So just getting rid of that is not that's a big marketing avenue in itself. So letting go of that is not easy. In terms of the strategies mentioned, then as i.e. how to reach this collaboration. So one of them was the life cycle sustainability analysis. So performing a holistic analysis on the life cycle of a service for a particular company, and seeing how collaboration could improve that, or using that as a strategy to improve collaboration. Demand management, so being able to sort out your demand, or manage your demand better. Traffic management, being able to work together to optimize the routes, for example, that we're taking. So there was also circular thinking. This was another strategy. So thinking about it from a circular economics perspective. Also urban consolidation centers, using technology and other strategies were mentioned in order to make horizontal collaboration work. So from here then, so this was kind of just the pure findings. From here then, each challenge was then linked to the drivers and the strategies, and I tried to kind of put them all together to see what the optimal results. So if there was a particular challenge, what were the drivers that could overcome this challenge, and then which of the strategies would be the best one to use to fulfill the drivers and to overcome the challenges. And 7 themes kind of emerged from this: economic and financial, organizational, operational, legal and regulatory, technological, social and cultural, environmental and strategic. So I'm just going to look at maybe 1 or 2 of these. So in terms of, for example, the economical and financial, from that perspective, for example, the challenge was the investment cost. So the high investment cost to enable the collaboration to happen. One of the drivers that could help someone maybe look at this challenge from a different perspective was that the fact that there would be local and regional development, i.e. it's a long-term investment, and a strategy that the company could use was to invest in infrastructure technology, and a result of that would be more efficient operations in order to offset that initial investment. So this was kind of the outcome of this research, trying to put things in this kind of split here. So there's a challenge, there's a driver that would help that, there's a strategy that comes with it, and then what would the result be? So I'll look at maybe another one of these. So for example, trust was one of the biggest challenges. A driver that could a mindset, a driver is like a mindset, really. A mindset that could help overcome this challenge would be the overall customer satisfaction. One of the strategy that could be used in order to overcome this challenge and support this drive would be having aligned visions, and the result would be long-term relationship between the partners and mutual benefit. Okay, and then I'll do 1 more, maybe environmental. Okay, so sorry, this full paper is available on request. I didn't actually submit it for this particular conference, but I can send it. So the last one would be the environmental, from an environmental perspective. So the challenge, high demand in highly congested areas. So being able to fulfill that demand, a driver could be, for horizontal collaboration, could be less road congestion and noise pollution as a result of working together. And the best strategy would be to optimize delivery routes together. And then the result would be then overcoming this challenge, which would be less congestion and better service overall. Okay, yeah, so finally, in terms of the theoretical framework, so I wanted to kind of have my own theoretical frameworks to use as a perspective to look at these different challenges, drivers, and strategies. And so these were the ones that kind of stood out to me from the research as to would be the best ones to use for horizontal collaboration. So for example, transaction cost economics is looking at reducing the cost associated with exchanging resources and services between firms. Resource-based view would be or states that firms can create value by pooling together their resources and their capabilities, and so on. And so by drawing insights from these different frameworks, the logistics stakeholders can address the challenges better and the opportunities associated with collaboration and create an environment that balances collaboration and competition. And that's kind of the main purpose here. So yeah, where am I going with this? Now this Greenlock project started working on it about maybe two months ago or 3 months ago. There are a lot of partners involved. There's a lot of large and small companies, a lot of public bodies. Oxfordshire City Council is very active. I was there actually just a few days ago as well. And I'm still open to suggestions. If anyone has suggestions as to where maybe this can go, but I would really like to take advantage of the data that's available and maybe look at better ways to enable these partners through technology and through maybe big data and data science, only because that's really my background, which is maths. And that's the way I'm thinking to take it forward. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Yeah, I'm happy to answer some questions on this.
We have some questions, so I'll pass it on to Vasco.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. I just have a question regarding, because you mentioned that one of your paper exclusion criteria are related to depth. How do you make sure that this criteria was neutral and was not just from your own perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Basically, yeah, I did have 2 supervisors that kind of overlooked it as well, so it wasn't just purely my opinion. But in terms of depth, a lot of papers would just mention that collaboration is kind of a good idea, and that's it. They would just say that it would just be really passive. So it's very easy to say that, okay, there's nothing deep about this. But yeah, I mean that's just how I did it, I guess. I don't want to answer that part of the question. But yeah, we had two supervisors that overlooked it.
Okay, any more questions? No, thank you, and we will be looking out for the results of the project. So good luck with that.
Okay, thank you very much.
For connecting.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to move to Nadia Jufrida, and we're going to hear about the spatial the word I cannot pronounce, approach to locate urban logistics facilities.